And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live here at Citizens Television. A very important conversation about drug abuse, substance abuse with National Police spokesman Charles Owino and former NACADA chairman John Motudo. Gentlemen, my very good friend, the very Reverend Canon Sammy Wainaina at All Saints Cathedral, he's asking a very simple question, spokesman, very simple question. Who sells these drugs? Who is selling these drugs? Why can't we cut that off? We know who's selling, or we must know, cut off from the source.
This is an international trade, and that is why you find a lot of drugs not actually coming from within the country. And we also realized, interestingly, even bangi, we used to get much bangi coming from Tanzania and from Uganda. But currently we are getting a lot of bangi from Isiolo route, Moyale. That means
from
Ethiopia. A lot of it is coming into the country. We are planting very little bangi. A bit of bangi you find planted around Mount Kenya. You find a bit of bangi planted in Mount Elgon, Western Kenya. A bit of bangi maybe around Migari area. But much of the country, we don't have much bangi, and we don't have cocaine, we don't have heroin. So much of it is coming from outside. And that is why you find that the regulation is now empowering the DPP to even get evidence from international level, and that evidence be used to convict a person locally. And you find that the persons dealing with it, therefore you're talking about the source. The source may not just be locally here. The source may be out of our country, and therefore people are using other means and collusions to ensure that they bring in the drugs. And also this is a trade that involves huge money, a lot of money. And where a lot of money is involved, there are so many people, there are so many things involved. There's death involved, a lot of threats involved. There's huge exchange of money involved. It's not done by ordinary persons. And therefore, and also they try as much as possible to close their routes and destinations. So it's not just an ordinary thing. And that is why when you look at, for example, Mexico and US, you find that this is a big menace to United States. And with all being a first world, with all the money that they may have, with all the technology that they may have, the drug is still coming in. So we cannot say we lose hope, and that is why we are coming with these stringent measures to ensure that we manage our country. But from where I sit, I think we are in a position to manage drugs. And we've done it fairly well, but we still have window to do much better.
And yet, at the same time, Chairman, we're still hearing our children, young people, drug use is on the rise, more and more.
I think there's one weakness we must accept, that when we did the NACADA Act, it was envisaged that we are going to have strong enforcement. When we did Motudo laws, it was envisaged we are going to have very strong enforcement. In Motudo laws, that is section 55, it was very clear that those people who are going to do enforcement, officers who are going to be selected from across section of the society, from the military, from the teachers, from whoever, people with a passion. And then they would form that special unit that were going to do enforcement. For strange reasons, when I was at NACADA, I went to headless meetings, and the numbers were 250 men, and that was never implemented. The same thing with the NACADA Act. There was a proviso for enforcement officers. Enforcement officers simply are dedicated people who will work with the communities just like the sheriffs do in the US and other places, other than the regular police. Because in Kenya, and I must comment about this, we have so many branches of the police. We have also anti-narcotics, people who do the anti-narcotics. But the way it is done here now compared to what we are seeing other places, you need to redesign ourselves again so that we have a dedicated enforcement wing, which is more sectorial. All units making all formations, joining hands, for a purpose. From people in transport, to people in agriculture, to people in government, chemistry, and others in that particular unit. Because, like for instance, Miraa, people don't like to hear the word Miraa. The active ingredient is catechins and cathinones. Catechins and cathinones have now been filtered elsewhere, in China and the US, such that that active ingredient is now available in the market as certain crystals. I'll be reluctant to mention the name because we don't want to promote any particular drug. And the people who do that leads to what you see like in Florida. If you Google, you will see something called flaka crisis in Florida. So on the part of the government, outside this particular tool, they must at least do the following. One, they must implement the existing statutes properly. Like the Mutuzo laws had envisaged to have about 5 regulations, but only 1 regulation was gazetted.
1 out of 5?
Out of 5.
1 out of 5?
5, yes.
So
there was a regulation on quality, which was never done. There was a regulation on rehabilitation and treatment, which was never. And all the ministers, from the late Saitoti, and I think he's seeing and hearing me in heaven, will know that I went there severally. Gaiseri, I went there severally. All of them, I did go there. I've not gone to see my friend Matiangi, because of course I'm not in that one now.
But you can say, but you admit we let down our children. We
have let them down. That's a fact. Let's not go around it. We have let them down. And particularly when you come and look at these people, the 41 kids down at where was this?
In Kiambu.
It's not Kiambu. The 41 was in.
The other day.
Yeah, Mountain View.
The little party in Mountain View.
Mountain View. What we should do, and I believe these days we have very civilized gentlemen like our brother here. When such an incident happens, and Kenyans, please listen, we should have 2 teams. One that will handle these kids with love and make arrangements for them to go for treatment and rehabilitation, just as provided for in this act. Then the tough guys from the police, the guys in blue, to come and have these guys jailed forever, the ones who organized it, the owners of the premises and so forth and so on. So the children's department should not just leave it to the police. People who are in charge of rehabilitation, treatment, rehabilitation Minister of Health, they should not just sit pretty there at Afi House or Mafia House, but they should have been there so that they can rescue these kids, assess them, and show their need for rehabilitation.
And spokesman, you know, that wasn't the only one. It wasn't an isolated incident.
No, it isn't. But interestingly, parenting has become very difficult. I think life has changed. Most of the people who are born Mheshimiwa's age and below, their parents were not even working much, so they were taken care of. But currently, our age, there's a lot of competition. People looking for money day and night. Your wife is working for many hours, you are working for many hours. We don't know where our children are. And it is causing a lot of problems because of the way the world is moving too fast. And therefore, parenting, we are not doing it appropriately. And that is why you find that we are not hands-on, or sometimes we don't even know where our children are. And then they join together and they start doing things which are wrong. And then also this period of COVID, we have also had a situation where children have stayed home for too long. Some of them have reached adulthood, and they would say, oh, we were bored. Like, remember the 6 girls who said they were bored. So we have a lot of challenges that is facing us. And you know, when these children come together and they socialize, and a few of them are smoking, taking drugs and drinking alcohol, eventually they influence even the other groups that are coming up. So it's quite a big challenge, and the way he has said it, we don't just go for the punitive action of the persons who are involved because they are children, but we go for punitive action against the organizers of some of these events. I think that would be quite important.
Chairman, you mentioned Miraa a moment ago.
Yes. Look, Miraa has 22 varieties. What that plant called Miraa has 22 varieties. One of the varieties is called Muguka. Muguka is cheap, And if you look through Mogoka growing zone, what's happening now, it would make the Minister for Agriculture resign if he knew what he was supposed to be doing. Because this is a cash crop. Miraa is a cash crop. Mogoka is a cash crop. You cannot expect the police to come and teach you how to run your economics at farm level. But as long as it's paying, as long as they are harvesting and they are able to get access, they will continue doing plantations. There was a senator in Naivasha who did 2 acres.
Of
A nominated senator of Mogoka. And I really protested one time out there for economic reasons. So what we need to do now is have a program, a specific program that will go to Miraa and Mogoka zone, alternative radius. I'm an agricultural specialist. I'm not a drug specialist like people imagine. And it is possible. That same sunshine, that same water, that same fertilizer, that same garden that produces Mogoka can do herbs of international quality. And I've seen farmers in Israel. I know one farmer called Barak. He exports herbs, these herbs used for our food, to a level of about 2 billion shillings from one farm. So there's a lot you can do. But this calls for concerted effort. All agencies must come in. Depending on how you are trained and who you are supposed to come in and now help on that particular side.
But there's a local market, there's a supply, a demand for this Mogoka you talk about.
Yes, you see, there is demand for it. But you can cut that chain by bringing in something else for them to do. Just like you see when you get a chocolate or somebody, you give them a skill and then they stop that bad habit. So the other bit we need to look at in terms of...
But basically, let me ask you this. When you see people chewing at a petrol station or either hanging out at a petrol station, is that legal?
I don't think Miraa is outlawed here.
It's not.
As they have done it in...
It's not what?
It's not outlawed.
It's not outlawed.
It's not outlawed.
Yeah.
As they have done it in Tanzania. And I don't think it is even in this bill because it would involve quite a lot. In fact, I was because Mheshimiwa is a politician.
Yes.
I was wondering how he would expect a minister for agriculture from a Miraa growing area
to resign.
No, to become punitive.
Or to subsidize.
Where will he get his votes from? It's just like from where I come from. There's a lot of changa. And you find very senior politicians, they don't want to touch it. They will tell you, oh, I was taken to school using this one. So, so for politicians, there are some things that it is upon us, the institutions, to ensure that, like us police, we say in Swahili, tuko na jina mbaya. We are hangmen. So we can be punitive, we can push because we don't get votes. We don't go looking for votes to get our positions because we are public servants. But for politicians, sometimes it's very tricky on them.
Now, I don't think it's that tricky because if you today you take a truck of Miraa and cross Tanzania, by the time you get to Morogoro, it will be the government of Tanzania vehicle. It's no longer your vehicle.
It's because it is provided for. It is punitive.
Yes.
It is provided for in their
the quality
statute.
of your car or your lorry.
Right.
But they convert it to their own vehicle, and that story ends up there. If you go to Australia and try to chew Miraa, and I studied in Australia, I got my master's out there. If you try, just try, don't even do it, just try. Then you see this world is too small for you.
It is very interesting what Mheshimiwa is saying. I'm not a supporter of Miraa growing as much, but it's very interesting. You would ask yourself, does Tanzania grow Miraa? Do they have a Miraa growing zone? Like us, Miraa has been a source of income for a very long time. Yes. So it becomes very tricky unless we just agree holistically and say, we are going to pass this in Parliament, and it passes. Us as law enforcers, once an item passes in Parliament, and that is why we are really, we would really push for this bill to pass. We are just praying that members of Parliament are going to pass this bill as soon as possible.
Sure. By the way, how far is the bill?
Yes.
I understand it's going to be tomorrow.
The what, first reading?
Tomorrow morning, second reading.
Second reading.
And it's technically possible for them to do that reading in the afternoon. At least for our daughters and our sons who are over Christmas period. Because going by what we are seeing now, police will not manage it. How do you manage 10 million marauding kids? Look at NACADA statistics. They are telling it loud and clear that over 50% of those kids are exposed to something or something. Now, these kids are under 18, so other statutes apply. The cells we have are not designed to hold 200 kids, 10 kids. So there's a logistical, like me, I would, if I was young, I would not like to be a police officer right now, this Christmas, for a fact.
And if you're young, you're probably subject to a lot. I mean, there's so much happening at the same time.
Yes, and then
Jeff, you know, police work is almost like being a priest in Catholic, where you make a decision that you're not going to marry or you're not going to get married. So even as our job as policemen, it's only that now maybe the job opportunities are limited and there are many people joining police because they simply want a job. But this job should be a calling. It's a very difficult job. And
thankless.
Yeah, difficult, thankless. And you'll always be accused. For example, from where I sit, sometimes it can be very difficult for me to get a vote from my community. Because especially when my community is, like now, my community is working with government, I'm very comfortable. but when they are in opposition and they are throwing stones, then I'm in a very awkward position. Because you see, I'm still the spokesperson. I'll come and condemn what they are doing. And they won't be comfortable with me. So this is a job that you must take when you are ready to sacrifice.
You're damned if you do.
Yes.
And you're damned if you don't.
And I can tell you, Jeff, like now, you can see I'm even looking healthier because I'm not very fat. You know, you grow fat when you have a lot of stress.
Yes.
But now, I want to hope in the next 2 years, I should be somehow smaller than you because I'm very comfortable. My community is fully working with government. They don't attack me anymore.
So you're not stressed.
Become their darling.
By the way, talking about police, I run the biggest rehab in Africa. It's called JOMEC, John Mutude Empowerment Center.
The biggest rehab in Africa?
Yes. And the most advanced in technical treatment or medically assisted therapy. And some of our clients include civil servants, police included. And the police particularly are very, very impressive response. It's very hard in a rehab to show more than 2% success. But we have recorded in one bunch, police officers, 85% success.
85?
Yes, and some of them have been promoted.
Wow.
And you should keep on. The other civil servants and others, instead of sacking those people, it is good if they are rehabilitated. Although there are challenges too, because you find there's a beast or an animal called NHIF, which will frustrate settlement of their...
Gentlemen, let's look at some feedback of this very important subject, shall we? Where are we? Okay, here we go. Tweets coming in thick and fast. Simba GK says, I've had a personal encounter with episodes of drug abuse, and resolving to sobriety was an uphill task. It's been 8 months now since I decided to stay clean, but the cluster headaches and insomnia that comes with withdrawal gives me a rough time. Chairman, you know about that. Lots of withdrawal symptoms, huh?
He needs to go to professionals.
Say that again. He needs to go where?
To the professionals. There are 10,000 trained psychotherapists in Kenya. Most of them jobless, from certificate to PhD. I repeat, 10,000.
Trained.
Trained. Not just quacks, trained. Let him find any one of them anywhere. They are available all over. Even through at Red Cross or any rehab.
But Chairman, give him a little credit. He's done 8 months, huh? He's done okay. I mean, at least he's tried.
And he can recover within maybe a month or two with this. Please don't hurt yourself, Joe. Don't hurt yourself more. Just go. There are some drugs which will be given. There is some there's a methodology they use such that they trim you, and then you go to the right way of thinking the way you want to do. But it's highly professional. Don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
Trust any of the 10,000 psychotherapists available in the country.
Okay, Joe Karobia says, I am organizing Matatu workers, and this industry abuses drugs due to stress and long working hours. Many workers suffer stigma years after they were arrested, smoking cannabis, and went to prison. How can we assist them get clean police clearance certificates?
We will issue police clearance certificates to anyone, even if you have committed an offense. But we shall indicate the offense that you committed. We no longer deny people. Long before, a few years before, if you had committed a serious crime, then we would not give you a clearance certificate. But now, we give clearance certificates, but we indicate the offense you had committed. So it's upon the employer or whoever wants to take you to say, despite the fact that he smoked bang, maybe I can still use him now as a driver because he has been rehabilitated. Or he committed an assault. What were the circumstances?
Right.
I can still employ him as an accountant. So we still issue, but we cannot tell you we'll give you clean. We will give you a certificate, but the certificate indicates the offense you had committed.
Even if it's just that one time you were caught with bangi?
Yes. As long as we have records, we will indicate.
I think I would differ with you on that one. Because you see, like I've seen some of your officers, and I'm saying with a lot of humility and respect. The other day I went to my bank, and it was about 2 minutes before 4 p.m. And I was just focused in entering before doing all these COVID-19 procedures. I had somebody try to salute or saluting, and I got alarmed. Checking on, he's a former client. He had been promoted, and the guy is neat. There is an officer who was in prisons. He used to beat up everybody. Today he has a car, he bought a car, he runs a farm, he has a family.
I think there's a difference of what he's saying. This person may not have been arrested and charged.
Right.
Maybe he was found to be an addict and was taken for rehab. But once you've been charged in court
and convicted,
and you've been convicted, and there is a record
for conviction,
the person who gives the certificates is called criminal registrar. He keeps a register of people who have committed crimes, people who have been convicted in law. So what would happen is, it is the law. Yeah. If you go to Parliament and you pass a different law, that after a period of time, maybe somebody can be cleared, that would be different. But as it stands today, once we found you had committed an offense, we will give you the certificate, but we indicate in the certificate the offense that you committed.
Wow.
To give, because before we used not to give certificates at all. Once you have committed an offense, a serious crime, what we call the CR, not the PCRs, we will indicate, and we will not give you a certificate. But now we give you the certificate, because maybe it was a common assault. So we will give you the certificate, but the person maybe employing you will make a decision.
It's up to them.
Yes. But unless that is repealed, then it would be a different case.
I think it should be repealed. Because in my organization, we have seen somebody who was a bad Mlevi. Today is a general manager of a hotel in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is in Israel. And if such a factor was highlighted, the guy will not get a job. I think we need to look at it.
Ulevi is not a serious crime. It's a petty crime. So ukiwa Mlevi, actually, the drunkards, we are not even supposed to take them to court unless they are disorderly. Drinking to me is not an offense per se.
That's very good to know. Thank you.
Yes, you can drink, and Jeff, if we find that if we find you drunkard and driving, that's a different.
That's a different offense.
That's a different case.
Correct.
But if you've just drunk and you are just sleeping somewhere along the road here, we should just simply carry you, take you to the police station. And when you wake up in the morning, we let you go. But if you are disorderly, you are beating people, that's a different
What about alcohol?
Yes.
Do you arrest passengers and other people who are drunk? Or?
No. A passenger is not even... For example, that is why when you are drunk, you take an Uber. We will not charge you for being drunk in an Uber.
What if there's 6 of you who
But if the driver is drunk, then that's a different case.
But if the driver is drunk, not everyone is drunk.
No, if other people are drunk and they're not driving...
That's all right.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong.
Designated driver, huh? Yeah. It's Bath says, the bill seeks to do away with 250 milliliter liquor packages. Where should the priority be? Quantities available in the market or crack down on illicits?
I think this bill is not about alcohol.
It's more drugs and narcotics.
About
there's
more drugs, narcotics,
drugs,
and
but there's another one on alcohol which is still coming, and I think you better get the parties, the ones who are proposing that one. Let them come to Jeff Koinange live.
Very good.
JKL, and then explain.
Very good. Kaboko Henry, how do we come up with laws in Kenya? Where exactly do we start from? From fines and punishment as opposed to finding ways to deter? What happens when underage citizens are caught up with contraband in schools? Bangi in schools and all
Number
kinds.
one, when you talk about deterring, punitive fines is part of deterrence. But kids in school, it also depends which age. What does the law say? Any person below the age of the age of 8 years is not criminally responsible.
And
Anybody
18
who
and
is 8 years and above takes criminal responsibility. So we'll not say you are in school if your age allows. Age 12 and above, any person who is under the age of 12, a male person under the age of 12, is not criminally responsible for sexual offenses. So what happens is that we look at the law and then we say, where do you fall?
So a teen caught with Bangi, they are convicted as a juvenile, is that it? Or
yes, the teens caught with Bangi, people who are under 18,
yes,
the court may decide to take them for rehabilitation compared to maybe an adult. Yes.
Okay. Shege Wairimo, ask the guests what they are doing about the new tobacco product LYFT, Lift. It's being taken by even children today. What's the way forward? Lift.
I think the minister gave a very, very clear guidelines the other day, and we don't want to contradict his position. Up from the registration all the way, I'm not sure whether it's a week ago or 2 weeks ago, CS Kagwe.
Yes.
I think we better follow what CS Kagwe is doing. First of all, we'll have that product out of market, and then guys will be prosecuted for introducing something that never was. So it's bad news for that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Karaoke, good to say it is the systems that have failed: corruption, weak prosecution, compromised judiciary. But who takes the stick and the blame? Will the bill help address these shortcomings?
Yes, it's very clear that the bill helps this, and this is why the public servants take responsibility if they aid, abet, or participate, because they have a responsibility to ensure that as an institution, they manage to prevent this.
And that's for the first time in Kenya.
Yes.
It has been like that.
The bill will help solve his worry.
No more passing the buck, or, you know.
No.
The buck stops with you.
Yes. Remember, even persons with just information and they fail to divulge that information, take responsibility for the offense. Yeah.
Mahathir, 95% of rehabs in Kenya are privately owned and they are too costly. Going by the drug abuse crisis, this is wanting. With the narcotics bill, this crisis can be solved. Chairman?
It's true. We have done very poorly in terms of treatment and rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Madara was done 1913, which is actually, according to Dr. Frank Jenga's committee, it's actually a monument of national shame. But they have now changed the management, and then we have a Tory, and they are going to rehabilitate the whole place again, itself, Madara, so that they can get mass treatment. Well, I was a chairman, and it's good to give credit to where it's due. The president gave express instruction. One of the NYS campuses was to be converted into a big rehab, taking about 8,000 people at once.
And?
It must be in the pipeline somewhere, but we were there with IG. At that time it was Kimayu, and also the Director General for NYS and ourselves. So it must be somewhere in the pipeline. True, you cannot handle 10 million clinical addicts overnight, but the government can do better if they follow that line, which was already triggered. And we received lots of letters from PS Kinywa on the same. I'm trying to remember because
but you say it's in the pipeline somewhere.
It must be in the pipeline.
In the pipeline.
Yeah.
Alex Owiti says behavioral campaigns are more important in fighting drugs than money to run institutions. Laws don't change morals. We need to instill morals in our youth and give them jobs. Drug problem is a reflection of the loopholes in the society. It's very true. Huh?
Yo kizungu mingi wacha nikwambie. Let me tell you. Let me tell you.
Yes.
There was a man called, many people know the UN Security Council, and there was Secretary General called Kurt Waldheim.
Dr. Waldheim, I
Waldheim,
remember.
you remember?
Yes, guy from Austria.
And there was a point when there was going to be that World War. There was the East and there was the West. And all the nations, nobody missed that General Assembly. He stood to give the synopsis. You can check in the net and see his full speech. And this is what he said. There's nothing like world peace. There's no word anywhere like world peace. What we have today is balance of fear. The West knows clearly well what will happen if they try to touch the East and vice versa. His work as Secretary General is to control the number of long-range missiles this side and this other side so that the fear is balanced. Then we have peace. As long as police are known, they will come and swap you, and you as a parent, you refuse to take care of your child, you are now going to pay rehab charges. As long as you know you are going to be jailed for life because you organized for that nasty thing at Kiambu, that balance of fear will bring harmony in Kenya na kila kitu kitakuwa sawa sawa. Kizungu mingi itakwisha tu.
Itaisha?
Yeah.
Spokesman, I'll give you the last word.
As police, we are simply officers of the law, as I've always put it. We are committed to ensuring that we support our country in terms of our general security. I request every member of parliament to support us in this particular bill to ensure that it passes, to enable us seal certain loopholes that would otherwise would help us in preventing this menace. When we prevent drug abuse, then we prevent almost 30–40% of crimes that would otherwise occur as a result of people who are stupefied with drugs. So I wish them the best of luck. It is not yet with us. We hope immediately it is passed, it will give us an opportunity to enforce it accordingly. We are ready and waiting for Parliament and the President to assent to it.
And by the way, if it is passed, if the President does assent to the bill, how soon before implementation?
It will depend on Mr. Matiang'i. He can do it rather on Saturday.
Wow.
He can gazette it. The procedure is first reading, second reading, third reading, goes to the President, accents. Then, within a period which they specify there, the President is supposed to do. Once he gazetted, he'll just take it and they will be surprised with it and they act.
And remember, I don't think it can take a day in the President's table. He has been in the forefront in fighting drugs. You remember we had to detonate the yacht in Mombasa, and that was a very good statement.
And you were there?
Yeah. And it was not just a statement locally, it was a statement internationally. Bring your yacht, bring your ship.
We'll blow it up.
We'll blow it up.
And it was brought.
You were there.
It's a very important,
there was drugs inside.
Yes.
It's a very important message.
Yes.
And it is a serious goodwill from the head of state. So we don't expect it to take long. Once Parliament passes this bill, then we believe that it will be implemented very soon.
Very good. Yes. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and a very important conversation. Let's hope this bill passes. We'll keep talking about it.
Yeah, sure.
Keep talking.
Let's keep talking. And anybody who knows that mad party, he knows the number to call, 999. I'm sure it's 999. They are very good officers. Try that number.
Yeah.
They respond. It works.
999.
999.
Former Nakada Chairman John Mutu, the National Police Services spokesman, Charles Owino Wahongo Ruat.
Yes.
Did I get it?
Correct.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for being a part of the 3 letters on the keyboard that follow each other every Wednesday night. JKL. It's a very important conversation. We've got to keep talking, because the moment we stop talking, you know what happens. And keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is JKLive. Thank you. God bless you. Good night. And let's see you again next week. Same time, same place.